I'm happy to invite Dr. Q to our gathering this evening. Dr. Q is involved with the Indian Palm Leaf Reading Institute. You will learn a little bit about another culture's approach to obtaining information from maybe energetic sources. It's kind of an interesting cultural difference relative to what we're accustomed to here in the US. But I think it's very helpful for us to hear how other cultures approach this this form of information, helping people with their lives. And tonight, Dr. Q will tell us about his involvement and share some of his experiences. At some point, I will chime in with some of my experiences. I recently had a reading, and I will share a little bit about my experience. So with that introduction, Dr. Q, why don't you get started?
Well, hello, and good evening to the East Coast. My name is Q, and I wish I could say it's because my mom, when she was hoochie-hooching me, she was like, how cute is he, how cute is he? So being a short version of how cute is he, hence it's very easy to remember my name Q, or Cutie Pie, if you wish. And the Dr. Q is not a stage name. I really was an academic at some points, went for professorship. But the whole journey, first of all, would have taken me too long, and my ADD kicks in, plus all the red tape behind, being a university professor just bore the hell out of me, to be super honest with you. Life's too short. I love teaching kids, don't get me wrong. I think I'm an entertaining presenter, but everything that goes with it, not mine. So I turned my passion, if you wish, into my living, my livelihood, and that is travel. So I ran a pretty successful travel business out of DC. We ran college-related trips across the globe, graduation trips for college graduates, and MBA trips for those who wanted to get an MBA, but going to travel to China or I don't know, wherever they went. So travel has been my my livelihood, I guess. The one that drives me. And if people ask me, what should they tell others? What should they do? I said, just travel, man. You travel, you realize that we're all humans. We all have the same needs. And we all want, our kids to be healthy and happy and send them to school. And so that's the one thing that, in my humble opinion, that brings peace to our otherwise maybe a little bit screwed up planet Earth. At any rate, so I'm half Persian. My dad's Persian, and so Q is the short version of a Persian, and Qamar is the very first ancient king of Iran, 2,500 years ago. And when I got my PhD, kids, my friends, I think more teasing than anything else, started to call me Dr. Q because it sounded so cool. And so it's been my nickname for 25 years. That gives away how old I am, despite the Botox that I keep using more and more. Over the years, just keep my face fresh and shiny for you guys. So my dad's Persian, my mom's European, she's Austrian, and I grew up in Iran. My dad's Baha'i, so I come from a Baha'i family living in a Muslim country. My dad was super wealthy in the old days. Some of you might remember the pre-revolution era. Otherwise, please watch a movie called Argo. Great movie indeed, and I must say he truly deserved being the best movie of that year. Even though I'm not a big fan of the main actor, of course, I forgot his name, but Ben
Affleck.
Ben Affleck, thank you. But that movie was phenomenal, just absolutely phenomenal. And so in 1979, some of you are mature enough to remember that there was a revolution. So we had to flee the country, otherwise they would have just killed us. It's as straightforward and as brutal as it is. They would have tortured, persecuted, and killed my dad for sure, purely because we're from a very prominent Baha'i family, because we're directly connected to the Prophet somehow, because my family is one of the very first converted Baha'is in Iran. And so we had to flee. My mom, being European, being Viennese, so she packed up 2 suitcases and the 2 boys, and then boarded a flight on August 29th, 1979, to never return. So I know how it feels to have servants And I know how it feels to have no money at all, because overnight we became super poor. My dad missed the boat. He thought, don't worry about it. We will just ride it somehow and we were fine. But no, nothing was fine. He lost everything. And he got lucky to not have been killed. He stayed for 2 more months trying to figure things out, but he couldn't. He got the last flight out, flying to the US, because most of our folks actually live in the US. That's my connection to the US. And so I ended up in the US starting a travel business. But at 16, you need to know a few things about me so that you understand why I ended up doing something. Because I'm a white guy, in case you haven't noticed yet. I'm not an Indian, and I don't bob my head unless I'm an Indian myself. Then I take over the culture after a while too. It's just contagious. So when I was 16, some of you might remember, the year was 1988. Is it correct? 1988, yeah. Chernobyl. At the time, Chernobyl was in a country called USSR, which doesn't exist anymore. Now it is in the Ukraine. Again, a troubled country today now too. And still to this date, the biggest nuclear catastrophe happened in April of 1988, which the reason being why I mentioned this is I got cancer because of that. And I ended up in hospital for 3 years, for a very long time, really. Now I can laugh about it, really I can, but at that time it was really hell on earth. It was chemotherapy, radiation therapy, surgeries, and in and out of hospital. So I spent about 6 months out of 3 years as an inpatient so you can imagine it was not an easy time at all. So when I was 16, I said, God, why me? I was angry, why me? I hadn't done anything yet to deserve being punished so badly. And after 3 years and seeing people die, and I saw people die too in Iran, don't get me wrong, because we saw shootings and stuff too. But having someone in your room die, that's a very intimate, shocking experience, obviously, especially when you're a kid. And then when they said, yeah, Q, you're good, it seems that you're done. And I said, God, why me? So why did I survive? And some of the poor souls did not, that I shared the room with over the years. That is the beginning of my spiritual journey. I just wanted to know what's behind the veil. I want to find out, because I realized there is a way more out there than meets the eye. I'm convinced, I know, so I cannot put my finger on it, I cannot prove it, but we're all in the same realm here, Jim too. So we know there's something that we don't know exactly what it is, but we know that there is something. So I spent most of my time, free time, and money too, to be honest. Of course, I spent a lot of money doing that too, and energy, to just explore what's out there. So I've done more than most people when it comes to crazy things. Shamans in the jungle, I don't know, John of God in Brazil. I've done the whole Reiki thing, the whole energy, distant learning, distant healing, you name it. I've done it all really, just to understand what's going on. Vipassana meditation, which was a fantastic thing too, in case you have heard of it. I hear it, I do it, I just want to see what's going on. The downside is I don't have a family, I don't have kids. But when you travel 250 days a year, it's very hard to have a family and kids, obviously. And I've been doing that for 25 years. So I heard about palm leaf readings, and it didn't sink in. It went in and out, boom, which is rather odd. But 8 years ago, I had met a girl from Hungary. I got extremely sick again. 9 years ago by now, sorry, it's almost 9 years ago. I got extremely sick, and she said, Q, that doesn't look good at all. Maybe something with cancer, you gotta go back. And at the time I was visiting her, we stayed in her apartment in Budapest. And so to my US friends, Budapest and New York, Budapest and Vienna are about, same distance as New York and Washington, DC, a little less than that actually. So it's not so far away. And she said, but there are worlds apart when it comes to wealth. Austria is wealthy, and it's a Germanic country. Everything runs, the way it's supposed to be running, with excellent medical system, free, the only left free in the world, by the way, where everything's included. You don't have to pay out of pocket anything. And then on the other hand is Hungary, which I love because I live there, but screwed up system. You don't want to end up in a hospital there, for sure not, unless there is no other option. Like Jim knows, because I ended up in the ER just a couple of weeks ago when his reading was actually due, but it's a different story altogether. So then she said, no, you got to go. And she put me on a train, and I went to my cancer hospital. And I said, look, I don't know, I don't feel so good. That's 9 years ago, in also April of 2013. Said, well, let us check you out and see what's going on. And mind you, they said, Dr. Moad, you're extremely sick. We're going to keep you here. And I said, why? I don't understand. I'm not that sick. Yes, it's true. I got the chills and I have fever, but that would not necessarily require me to stay. He said, no, sir, I think you don't understand. You're lucky that you're alive. I said, what? And that day, believe it or not, I collapsed in the hospital. So they put me in the ICU. Had I not been in that hospital, had I stayed in Budapest, I would be dead now. But somehow the Lord continues to punish me by telling me that I have to stay on planet Earth for whatever reason, even though I already knocked on the door a couple of times. I had a virus infection, which had impacted my heart side, myocarditis, inflamed heart muscle, water in my heart muscle, pneumonia, water in my lungs. And I didn't notice it because, it's just, I'm very fit. I spent a lot of time in being healthy, like super healthy. So people wouldn't necessarily see that I'm not. Have gone through so much pain in my life, but I have. So I survived. I was in the ICU, and when they rushed me to the ICU, I said, God, I don't understand, man. I was using different words than I'm using now, way more graphic than now. But I said, look, I don't understand why me. I survived a revolution, cancer, I had a car accident. Somebody drove straight into me and I, smashed my head and broke my bones and stuff. I said, now this is it. Oh my God. Anyway, in the ICU, I connected the dots and I said, look, this must have to do with karma, because this lifetime, I really think that I'm a pretty nice guy. I don't smoke, I don't even own a car. I don't do crazy things. So it must have to do with karma. And then my girlfriend, bless her heart, she visited me in the ICU and said, I think you should do a palm leaf reading. I said, what's that? He said, I already told you about palm leaf readings and you read a book about it too, but it somehow didn't sink in. And that is also pre-answering a question people have. Does everyone have a palm leaf? No, because even though somebody tells you there are palm leaf readings and there are leaves written for you, if it doesn't sink in, then obviously the reality for you doesn't. In your reality, there is no palm leaf for you, hence not everyone has a leaf. So, but in the ICU, I said, wow, holy moly, how could I have not heard you or remembered a book that I read by a guy called Deepak Chopra. Maybe you know about him too. I met him a few times actually by now. And he's an endorser of my institute, as he does. He sent people to India to do palm leaf readings. And so in his book, The Book of Secrets in 2003, one chapter is dedicated to his own reading. So I said, oh my God, I remember. Yeah, it's true. So I told myself, if I survive, I come out of this, I'm going to get a palm leaf reading so I can get my karma cleaned. And so I did. Believe it or not, I survived. I was released. Went through rehab first, very painful because I couldn't move my body at all. I was super stiff. It took me actually 9 years to be able to do this again, to move everything the way I can now. So it was a long journey, very painful journey. But I don't want to bore you with that. So I ended up getting a reading done, and it blew my mind. Just like many other people say, wow, it blew my mind. And just like Jim said, and also Daniel, you're not novices when it comes to spiritual things. You've done things before. So when I say blew my mind, it truly means it blew my mind. I'm not like, it was not my first spiritual thing. It was not like, oh, wow. No, I've done a lot of things before that. And yet I was blown away by what I experienced. First of all, you need to know that a reader is a person who finds your bundle. This is a bundle. I'm going to get into that in a second. And then identifies your actual leaf within the bundle and then gives you the reading. That person is called a reader. When during a matching process, because I told you my father is a Persian guy, so he has a Persian name. His name is Siavash. And my mom is a European. She's blonde and blue-eyed. She's Austrian, and her name is Gisela. So when you sit in front of the reader and he says blah, 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 like Tamil, which I don't speak Tamil, Siavash, you're like, holy crap. There is no way this guy's ever heard that name before in his entire life. I know so. Siavash. And then Gisela, like, what the hell? How can a guy who's never heard this name before tell you. So I knew he found my leaf, and of course it was an incredible experience. And in the reading, he told me many things. One of them was that, you're going to be living in Hungary. Well, he didn't put that idea into my head because I already decided to move to Hungary because I've met a girl from Hungary. But hearing it from an Indian guy who has no clue, I assure you, I guarantee you this guy has no clue where Hungary is. I'm 99% even sure that he wouldn't even know where Europe is. If I showed him a big map of the world, and I would say, can you just pinpoint Europe for me on this big map? I'm 99% sure he would not be able to hit the right spot. And not because they're not educated or so. And I'm not trying to speak down on them at all. It's just a different universe. To an Indian, I don't know if you've been to India or not, because I've been to India quite many times. I actually traveled a lot in my life to begin with. I've been to more than 100 countries. As I said, that's what I do. So to me, travel is I have to travel. I'm a gypsy. But to an Indian, a Southern Indian, the rest of India is like a different universe altogether. So when they go to Delhi or to Mumbai or so, it's almost like a different country. So for him to say, hey, can you pinpoint Europe or some, you might not at all. And that's the reason why I mentioned that. So when he said, oh, you're going to be living in Hungary, blew my mind. I was like, wow, so my decision that I already had made is a good one. And I've been living there ever since. And I enjoy every minute, I must say, as an expat, that is, but still I enjoy it very, very much. And he also said, and you're going to bring this to the West. I was like, yeah, sure. I'm not Indian. I have no desire whatsoever to ever have be involved in any sort of business where I need to manage people, because I had a fairly decent sized travel business before, and just I don't like office work. I don't like to fire people. I don't like to hire people. I don't like to manage people. And all the rest of it is it's a lot of work. And I had like 70-hour weeks every week when I have my travel business. And it's not what I want, because I know life's very short. I'd rather run an independent lifestyle. And yet here I'm talking to you 8 years later. So this guy was spot on. The reason being, when I shared my experience with friends and family, many of them wanted to get a reading done, but nobody wanted to go to India. To some of you, India might be a magnet, I understand that, but to most of you, India is a no-go destination. Western people, the vast majority, will never go to India, period. It's too hot, too poor, too dirty, too whatever it is, they just might not go. And that is how I thought, oh, how can I help? Because I was also told it's my last life, and Jim now knows these things, and we can tell him more about what a reading contains. And I need to, help people, which I do anyway, so it's nothing unusual. So I thought, how can I provide friends and family with a reading without them having to go to India? And that's how we started to do Skypes, super easy Skype calls. And then I was sitting in the readings, because they had a hard time understanding the accent. That's one issue. The other issue is they might understand the accent after a while, but they might not understand the deeper meaning of what the reading means. And since I've done a lot of different things in my life, and I've been coaching people for like 25 years, and too, I explained what the reading actually means. And so I connected the dots for them. And people said, wow, awesome. It was an incredible experience. And so they recommended, they were just talking to other people, and then more people came. And all of a sudden I had like people that I was helping. I had no clue where these people are, because a friend of a friend of a friend, gets a reading done. And that is when we thought, that's like 6 years ago. I said, no, that this cannot continue like that. First of all, I was still involved in the travel business and at the time, and two, we needed to put into legal framework. So we created this institute out of California. So CPA, taxation, all of that is based out of the US. And yet I do have an office in India. And the reason why it's an institute is also pretty simple. My aim was twofold. One, to provide readings for Western people from the comfort of their home, so they don't have to go to India. Authentic, ethical environment. And two, I wanted to help my Indians. So I talk to my readers, and it's not so easy to find authentic, ethical readers either, mind you. Some people say, oh, I want to do it in India. So yeah, good luck. Go to India, and good luck finding one that you can trust. So we heavily overpay them, because I promised them if they stick with me as we grow, they will be able to provide for their families. So they are. So I'm helping my Indians. I also help a couple of orphanages and assisted living homes that provide help to super poor people in an already super poor country. Hence, it's a calling more than anything else. You might have healing jobs like gym, too. Really, you can never be wealthy if you are in the healing world. So it's a calling. I'm here to help people as best as I can and provide, hopefully a decent living to my Indians as well. So that's how we all ended up doing this. And I do have a brick and mortar office in India, in the southernmost state of India called Tamil Nadu. I always compare Tamil Nadu with California. It's twice as big as California. 85 million people live in that one state alone. They're Tamils, they speak Tamil. It's a very confident state, let's put it that way. They're the only state that are not supporting to also learn Hindi. They're like, screw that, we don't need a national language. We are Tamils, we speak Tamil. So it's a little different. It's the original India too, by the way. So if you've never been to India, if you want to see the original India, original southern India, the rest came later throughout the centuries. So we do have an office there in the central parts of that big state, about 5 hours south of Chennai, which is the capital city. So it gives you an idea of where things are. And now a little bit about the history of these leaves. The reason why the office is there, because historically speaking, legend has it that about 2,000 to 3,000 years ago, there is no written record, hence I cannot tell you the source, but through hearsay, there were dozens of Maharishis. Maharishi means great sage, who through the power of meditation, they connected with the gods that they knew at the time. It has nothing to do with Hinduism per se. It's connected to Hinduism, but it's not a religious act. So they connected to Shiva, Ganesha, Parvati, whoever they were meditating to, Vishnu. And they got the power of foresight to then write down messages for people, souls, whether you're Indian or not makes no difference. Look at me, I'm not Indian at all. To then give them a guideline whenever they're supposed to receive the guideline. I call this Indian palm leaf reading because nobody in the West knows what it is. Hence, I tried to give it a literal name, Indian. So hopefully people understand it has to do with India. Palm leaf. So hopefully they don't mix it up with tea leaves or the palm, and yet they still do. And reading, so that there is some sort of reading involved. So Indian palm leaf reading. In India, nobody calls it Indian palm leaf reading. They call it Nadi Astrology or Nadi reading. So it's a sub-branch of Vedic astrology. And Vedic astrology is also a hip new term for Hindu astrology or Indian astrology. And in the 70s, when Ayurveda became hip in the West, they started to call it Vedic astrology. But in reality, it's Indian astrology or Hindu astrology. Let's, for argument's sake, just call it Vedic astrology. So it's a sub-branch of Vedic astrology, but there are no charts involved at all because this Nadi reading is predictive astrology. Everything is written on the leaf. The reader does not draw any charts, unlike a Vedic astrologer. Yet, a reader needs to know all of Vedic astrology because his schooling takes 5 to 7 years. A real, authentic, ethical reader takes many years to become a reader. You will find a reader in India around every corner, and yet they're just fake readers, they're not real ones. A real reader takes quite many years to become a reader. Why? He needs to learn ancient Tamil, all the Vedic astrology, all the symbols that are used in a leaf to be able to convert it into a meaningful sentence and message to us in the West. It takes quite some time to get to that point. So in the central parts of Tamil Nadu, that is where legend has it, Vaitishvaran coil, that's the name of it, Vaitishvaran coil. Dozens of Rishis, Maharishis, great sages were meditating to the gods, and then were given the power to write down messages for people on leaves. Hence, we call this Nadi Astrology, Nadi reading, because Nadi has many readings. Nadi means the leaf itself, where the message is written on. Nadi means pulse, human pulse, so representing life. Nadi also means seeker. So the person who gets a reading done is also referred to as a Nadi. Nadi but is also means the exact time in space where the message is delivered to the seeker. That's also Nadi. Hence, Jim, when I couldn't be your moderator 2 weeks ago because of my major health threat, I knew it was just not meant to be on that day. So I'm never too worried. I'm just glad that I could actually communicate it to you, and I'm very thankful that you understood and it was not a big issue to you. So that's why we call it Nadi Astrology or Nadi reading in India. It has many other names too, but I want to keep it simple. So what they did is they then dictated. There were dozens. We do not know how many Maharishis there were. Still, we do not know quite many readers, but 18 of them are considered to be the main Maharishis in the south. 18. The guy in the middle, he's the most important. His name is Maharishi Agastya. He wrote the most. He's the most famous. He's a scholar. He was way ahead of his time too. He was a multi-talented human being, a true saint too. So usually and most likely, if you get a reading done, your first reading will be by Agastya. And so they were dictating their messages, and their disciples then wrote the messages on the dried palm leaves, actually on fresh palm leaves, hence Indian palm leaf reading. What they did 2,500 years ago, no paper. So how can we keep keep records of anything? So they used what they had in abundance, and that's palm leaves. So they cut them into, how long is this? Maybe 10 inches long and about an inch or so wide, give or take. The top and the bottom are also, in my particular case, made out of wood. So just hence it's called a book of Agastya, or bundle of Agastya, meaning every single leaf in this was written or dictated by Agastya. And so these leaves were then fresh, and they used special pencils, and they etched the information onto a fresh leaf. And then when that leaf dried up, you could then see the message. And that is how they preserved information throughout the centuries. And not just for Indian palm leaf readings, but also for Ayurveda, legal texts, for many astrology, Vedic astrology, of course. And quite a few sections of these bundles are a UNESCO World Heritage protected by the United Nations. If you do not know what the UNESCO World Heritage List is, Google it. Areas, buildings, all cities, Prague, Vienna, the Grand Canyon, the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. So it could be nature, it could be one single building, it could be a district of a town, or it could be French cuisine is on that list too, believe it or not, or some of these bundles as their Indian heritage, because the United Nations deemed bees to be so worthy of protection, because they're bigger than us, and we should protect them for the rest of humanity and history. So they dictated it in ancient Tamil, which Tamils are very proud to say. You can Google that too. But of course, there is a competition between Sanskrit and Tamil. Which one of these two is the oldest written language? Every Tamil would say it's Tamil, of course. About 3,000-year-old written, or even older written language called Granta. And out of Granta, modern Tamil came about. So they were dictating their messages, and their disciples scribbled it on these dried palm leaves, and then on these palm leaves, and then they dried up, and that's how they preserved the information. Now, if you keep such a leaf all by itself, it's too brittle, it cracks up, and it's gone. So what they did is they created these books, and in a book you can tie it together as I just showed you, and then they stored them in archives and libraries across southern India for the most part. When you think of archives and libraries, you think temperature-controlled security guards, water dispenser, and so forth. Well, that means you have never been to India, because India is the opposite: chaos, dirty, dusty. There is no security guards. Usually a hole in the wall, or a back room somewhere, and that's an archive. So we do not know how many archives exist. I'm sure there are thousands of them, because there is not one central archive or library. As these families, hundreds of them, maybe thousands of them, over the centuries, just gathered some of these bundles, and they keep them as their own treasure. So we do have reading families in the southernmost parts of India. They pass it on from great-grandfather, grandfather, son, and so forth. That is how the information and the wisdom is passed on from one generation to the next. There is no school you can go to. There is no university, or so it says, Nadi Astrology University. No, there isn't. You need to find your own guru if you're an outsider. If you're an insider, means you were born into such a family, then it's naturally passed on to you from great-father to father and son and so forth. But if you're an outsider, you will need to find your own guru. You will dedicate many years to the person who then, after a while, you're sweeping the floor, running errands for the person. He then will start developing, become a reader yourself, and that takes quite some time. And so I told you about a little bit of the readers and about the archives and how they're all stored, how to get a reading. If you were in India, these readers, they have like offices, and again, offices and exaggeration, again, more or less a hole in the wall. You will go to, it's just the reality of it, especially where I have my office. I'm like the only white guy. When I show up, I stick out like a sore thumb, and Emish, my partner, when we go there, it's almost uncomfortable, to be honest with you, because they're not used to Westerners, and they think we're like walking ATMs, which I'm not, because I'm doing spiritual work. I wish I were a walking ATM, and so it's very different altogether. You will walk into a reader's office, and the reader would need from you your thumbprint, left ladies, right gents, your gender, and your country of birth, and that's an ethical, authentic reader. That's all he needs from you, nothing else. Not your birth date, time, name, none of that. He will then look at your thumbprint. If you're a lady, your left thumbprint. If you're a gent, right thumbprint. Has to do with Hinduism and how they go about distinguishing male and female. So you submit your thumbprint, you use ink pad, boom, on a piece of paper, and then the reader literally looks at your thumbprint through a magnifying glass and identifies a category name. There are 108 different category names to a thumbprint. Jim's, if I may divulge that information, is a beautiful thumbprint name. It's a very unusual too. I think I told you that because I've been in 1 or 2 readings before. So I'm excited when something new happens too, and I learn something new. 108, by the way, is a holy number in Hinduism. So we have 108 different category names when it comes to thumbprints. Some of them are more common, and some of them are very rare. And then the reader, once he knows your thumbprint name, goes on a physical search. So it's a 3-part thing: search, matching, reading. The search is you submit your thumbprint, and then the reader goes on a physical search. There is no computer system. There is no registry of any kind. So what he does is, once he knows your thumbprint name, he goes from one archive to the next, to the next, to the next. He would start with his own archive. If he has his own little library, of course, he will go into the dusty little back room, dust off the bundles, and then looks on the outside. This one, maybe this one here too. There you go. This one says 22 on here. So it's either a symbol or a number on the outside, on the cover of this book. So he knows which leaves this one book contains. Is it matching with the thumbprint name that, for example, Jim has, or not? So he doesn't have to open them up, because every leaf in this one bundle or book, as I told you before, has the same thumbprint name. Whether it's female or male or transgender or straight or gay, and it doesn't matter, they all carry the same thumbprint name. All these leaves, they have one thing in common, which means you are soul sisters, soul brothers. It could be a gentleman from France, a lady from Australia, but you're not related to them at all. And then if he finds a bundle, first in his own archive, if not, he goes to his neighbor's archive. If not, he goes to the one further away. And if that doesn't work, he would hop on his bicycle further away. And if that's too far and he still cannot find it, he would hop on his moped. And if that's too far, he would go on a public bus to a town that's an hour or 2 hours away. And if that doesn't work, we would use an agent. I'm just telling you behind the scenes how things work. There are agents out there. He will call, it's all done through recommendation and connections, because there is a lot of fake stuff going on too. You need to know that too. Even though I love India for many reasons, I like India, but an Indian would sell you almost anything just to make a quick buck. So you need to know the source exactly. So there are agents that readers trust and say, look, my friend, I need a bundle that matches this thumbprint name. Do you have one in your town? Yes or no? If he says yes, you would go find it, ship it over, and that would then end up in the reader's office where you submitted your thumbprint. And then he will call you and say, hey, Jim, we found a bundle or two, come over. You would walk over, and the search has come to an end. First of the 3 steps. The second step and the third step happen in one sitting. That will be matching and reading. Matching means the reader helps identify your individual leaf in this bundle that's matching. And then once you were matched, the reading happens. Reading, we'll get to both of them in a minute. How does matching work? Jim can vouch for this because he just was in a matching himself. The reader opens up the bundle in his office where you sit across from him, and people think, oh, doing it in India is so much more authentic and so much more fun. I did it. I assure you, Jim, because Jim did only the online version, is way more comfortable at home than being in the office of an Indian. Because many reasons. One is hot as hell, so that's one thing. Humid as hell, another issue. Mosquitoes everywhere, 3. They use so much incense that you get dizzy, and because of my chemotherapy, I'm extremely sensitive to scent. So incense, I usually run as fast as I can, but I couldn't, so I'm stuck in his office, and this guy lights like 20 of them. I thought I'm it's like being hit by a sledgehammer. So there are many reasons why it's a little challenging. And then you gotta, scribble along and make sure that you can keep up with what he's telling you. And there is no moderator who repeats things to you if you have a hard time understanding the accent. So all these things and why Jim's experience, I assure you, was way more comfortable than the quote unquote real deal. So in the matching, the reader will open up the bundle, and then he will go through each leaf step by step through a process of elimination to keep it simple. There is no guesswork. The reader only knows your gender and your thumbprint. That's all he knows. Everything else is written in the leaf. He looks at the leaf, which is written in ancient Tamil that doesn't exist anymore. Ancient Tamil and modern Tamil are kind of like ancient Greek and modern Greek. A modern Greek person does not know how to read, speak, understand ancient Greek. They would have to go to university and study it. Same thing with modern Tamil and ancient Tamil. That's one thing. 2, Tamil, unlike all Western languages, English, French, German, Persian, Western languages, they're all letter-based, A, B, C, D. Tamil is kind of like Chinese Mandarin, a sound-based, a syllabic language. So one sound can equal many letters in English. For example, all the vowels are one sound in Tamil. A, E, I, O, or U is one sound. G, J, K, L, M, N is another sound. So it's very complex to convert a sound-based language into a letter-based language. So it's an ancient language that doesn't exist anymore. It's a sound-based language. It's written in a poetic way, like a poem, not in prose. It doesn't say, this leaf belongs to Jim. That would be awesome, but regret it doesn't work like that. And last but not least, they use symbols. That's the only way how you can compress so much information onto a small piece of palm leaf. Symbols. So he would go through these leaves and then read out statements to you. For example, as Jim knows, you're married, because that is the most important message on that leaf. He would say, you're married because this leaf belongs to a person who's married. If you're married now, this very moment, when you get your reading done, you say yes. If you're not married, you say no. So the only 2 answers you need to give throughout the entire matching process is yes, no, right, wrong, correct, incorrect. Everything else is written on the leaf. No need to give any more information than that. For example, you are married, but you're going through divorce. No need to say, yes, I'm married, but I'm going through divorce. That's superfluous information that the reader does not need to know at all. So at the end of a successful matching process, where the reader, again, one more time, only knows your gender and your thumbprint name, it's very, very important for me to tell you, because he really does not know anything else about you, and Jim was in the process himself. He, the reader, will tell you to verify who you are, because you can verify it. Your first name, your mother's first name, your father's first name, your date of birth, time of birth, weekday of birth, partner, spouse, spouse's name, ex-spouse, deceased spouse. Sometimes I had a lady who had a reading with me, not before my kidney age, 2-3 weeks ago. She had 4 ex-husbands. Holy moly. And they were all mentioned in it. She almost got a heart attack. So your ex-spouses, your kids, how many kids, gender of the kids, siblings, how many siblings, how many the gender of the siblings. So it's you, period. Like, there is no doubt. I don't
Dr.
know.
Can I step in for a second here?
Yeah, of course.
If he talked about being a process of elimination. So you've got this bundle, and they open it up and they look at the first leaf, and they start telling you things on that first leaf. And as you're saying correct for some things, you'll come to something and say, no, that's not correct. And they say, okay, well, this isn't your leaf. They flip it down and they go to the next leaf. They keep going through these leaves. If you get to a point where you start saying, no, that's incorrect, then that tells them that's not the right leaf. And they process it. They flip it over and they start reading from the next one. So it's eventually you get down to a leaf where you're answering yes to everything. So right. just to give a sense for it, they're sitting there, you're watching him read the leaf. He says in Tamil what he's getting. The interpreter or the translator puts it in English, and you answer yes or no. And then he lets the guy know if you answered no, they'll flip it over and you go to the next one. So just a little sense for the process.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Perfect. Yeah. Perfect. That's exactly how it works. So for as long as you say yes, he stays on it, goes deeper and deeper. As soon as you say no, well, then it's obviously not you. It flips over to the next leaf. And a match has been achieved when you say yes to everything. Then it's you. As I told you before, because every single leaf in a bundle has the same thumbprint name, it can very well be that you have similar life trajectories. People are, I've been in so many readings and might say, that's me. And yet it's not you, because there's so many similarities in it, it's not you. So there is a reason why we use moderators in our, because there is the reader who only speaks Tamil and ancient Tamil. Then there is the interpreter who sits next to him in the office in India. He then interprets Tamil to English, or rather English, I should say, Indian English. So it's, even though I spend considerable amount of money and time in teaching them Western-ish English, their English is just fundamentally different. And it's very hard to just change how they speak. To give an example, when we as Western people go to a restaurant, in our heads, we all presume it's a meat restaurant. It's a given. This is just, right? So we say when we're in a restaurant, we all presume that's a restaurant that also serves meat. Well, not in India. When you go to a restaurant, at least in the state of Tamil Nadu, we presume it's a vegetarian restaurant. Right? So if you want to treat yourself to something special, the once a week non-vegetarian food, you would specify, I would like to invite you to a non-veg restaurant. Do you understand? So it's non-veg. That's a big deal. And it would say in big letters, non-veg outside, means not vegetables, so non-vegetarian, meaning also meat. So they have their own words they use, and also their own grammar they use, which is very confusing to us. So you're having a baby. It's like that. To us means she's pregnant. To them it means you have a child. You are having a baby. You know what I mean? So it's very confusing to us, to them. So it took many years. It takes many years to change the way they think about English and also communicate in English. Anyway, I just wanted to give you some behind the scenes, hopefully amusing behind the scenes little stories of what's going on in my office, trying to make them aware of the fact that in the West people speak different like English than they do. So matching has happened, you know it's you. And if there is ever doubt, then it's not your leaf. It's that simple. So you either say, wow, that's me, or that's not you. Super easy. And then the reading starts. And so the whole purpose of the search and the matching is for you to finally get your reading. And since we have, I think Sheila, I think it was Sheila in here. There is a connection, of course, with the Akashic records.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. I'm just making a connection here because they get a download, you know, these Rishis get a download, those Maharishis, great sages. And even though it's not like scientifically, quote unquote, proven or so, my own little, because I've done this for so many years and I've done many different things too, is that's how I view these palm leaves. It's a personalized Jim Fisher download from the Akashic records onto a piece of dried palm leaf to then be given to you at the exact time you need to receive the message. So there is the connection between Akashic records, if you wish, and dried palm leaf readings. Mm-hmm. So the reading then is based on three things. Your genetic makeup, if you wish, that is your thumbprint name. You cannot change it. So it's based on your thumbprint name as your baseline, as your steady thing that's with you for your entire life from birth to death. Then two, it's based on your energies, not your mood. Whether you had your morning coffee or not makes no difference. That's just the mood, but not your energies. In our system, the energies change every 6 months. Hence, and the reason why I'm telling this to you again as a background information, we search for bundles for 6 months. So you submit your thumbprint, and that is the moment, since we do have an open-minded audience here, how come some people have a leaf and how come some other people don't? Now, I've spent a considerable amount of time trying to think about this, and I do believe in it with wholeheartedly. And that is, I don't think time, the way we perceive time, is time. I really don't think so. I cannot prove it, but I've done a lot of very deep meditations with and without shamanic help, I should say. So I know both, really. And when you go deep down, everything becomes one, really. Only we cannot distinguish or really understand it, or at least I cannot. So there is no past, present, and future. It all becomes one. So how come some people have a palm leaf and some people don't? Now, when I heard about palm leaf readings, I heard it, but it didn't sink in at all. I just heard it. So it didn't leave any imprint on me. But when I reheard it and I had a thought which recognized what it is and what I want to do, thought is the basis of consciousness, if you wish. And then I did an act. And this very act of me submitting my thumbprint that manifested the thoughts, my consciousness, my being here, so that 3,000 years ago, at the same time now, when I submitted my thumbprints, bringing into reality that I indeed am a Nadi and I seek direction, 3,000 years ago, at the same time, Agastyar, who wrote my first palm leaf, started to dictate, okay, here's the message for Q, who then will receive his 2 months later when they find his bundle and then he has his matching and his reading. So that is the act where you tell the universe, look, it's not just blah, blah, I need direction here. And so the reading is based on your thumbprint. Very, very important. That's your baseline, never changes. Your mood, your energies, and that's the reason why I explain all this to you. The energies shift every 6 months. It can be that in 6 months we cannot find your bundles because every 6 months, according to our system, Nadi reading system, your energies shift. Hence, it can be that you don't have a palm leaf written for you in this 6 month period. After 6 months are over, we say, sorry, we couldn't find palm leaves for you, bundles for you. We'll refund your $100 for the search. And then you do it again, a new manifestation of your wish to have a reading. And it could be a week later, boom, there is a bundle, because your energy is the energy shift every 6 months. So it's based on your thumbprint, your constant energies shift every 6 months. And of course, Vedic astrology plays a role in it too. So based on these three, the reader gives you a possible life trajectory into the future until there is no more writing on the leaf, which might, but is not necessarily true, mean that's the end of your life. It's just the end of the message to you, as was the case with Reverend Bill, who had a reading 10 years ago, and his reading ended, 20 years ago, whose reading ended at age 70, but he's turning 80. And so he had a reading now a couple of years ago with us, and that was just the end of what was written in his first leaf. And I'm only mentioning that because Jim knows Reverend Bill. And so it's a likely trajectory. Your life is not set in stone. It's very, very important for me to
Dr.
tell you.
Q,
Yes?
let me an idea occurred to me, a way to describe what you just said.
Sure.
Going back to the notion that time isn't as we think it is.
Sure.
It's like when I put my thumbprint down on that piece of paper, it was like sending an email to the Maharishi.
Yes.
And he receives my email, my thumbprint, and okay, it's think of it as happening at the same time. I'm going to go research what what I can find about him. Now, maybe there are times where when I send my email, my thumbprint, his server's down, so he doesn't receive it.
Yep.
So you come back a little later and you send the thumbprint again, and the server's back up, and it comes through. And it's an interesting way of taking a fairly esoteric description of something and trying to put it in ways that might make it easier for people to follow what you're saying.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it. Yes, thank you. Indeed, yes, it is. It's beyond me too. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think about these things all day, every day, and yet I have been able to find no single reader would ever give you the same answer, because they didn't go to the same school. They have different, of course, education levels and different schooling they went through, different gurus and so forth. So it's my own little deduction, my own life experience, life and death experience, I should say, that made me come up with this explanation. So the reader gives you a possible life trajectory into your future, covering all aspects of life. It's a whole life reading. We offer whole life readings. That means all areas of life that can be of interest to any human being. That will be a family life, kids, grandchildren, health, career, spirituality, money, love affairs. It depends on, of course, at what age you have your reading. Now, you need to be at least in your 17th year. So that means you need to be completed in 16, so that you're an adult in the eyes of an Indian. But when it comes to how old or mature you can be, there is no limit to that. We just had a reading for an 82-year-old recently. So obviously to an 18-year-old, his or her immediate next 5-10 years is of utmost importance. That means university or career, education, maybe love, kids, these are the importance of. What happens then when they're 50, they cannot even imagine. I mean, I just turned 50 myself, and I was like, dude, I'm 50. Oh my God, I'm an old man. 25 years ago, I never thought I would ever be this old. So if you talk to a young soul, what goes beyond 30 or 40 is like way beyond them to be able to even understand and process. And yet, my mom had a reading just a few years ago, and she's 75. To her, I mean, the reading was just as long as to an 18-year-old. And the reason being, the reader and the reading who do not know you, they do not know you at all. They're in tune with what it is that you need to hear. So to my mom, her life period is her kids, her 2 boys, and I'm one of them, and her grandchildren. So basically, I was her moderator in her reading, because she would never fly to India. And the reader had no clue that she's my mom either, but it was like me receiving a second reading as I was moderating my mom's reading. It was like, holy moly, Mom, this is like, it was uncanny. Like what they knew about the difference between me, I'm on the woo-woo side here, even though I am an academic and I'm still, here on planet Earth. I'm woo-woo. My brother is like a surgeon, it's like very different to me. And they picked up on these energies, and my mom couldn't believe it either. But to her, all that matters is her kids, her grandchildren. So it's beyond her reading at some point. So, and they tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. Please, when you get a reading done, don't think that just because you're reading done, you're super special, or that everything is dandy. That's another big mistake that sometimes people make, because it's not. If you had a challenging life until now, not looking after yourself, which happens many times, because we've been in many readings myself, and the Institute in way more readings than I've been in readings. Don't expect the reading will just heal you out of the blue. No, it cannot be. You are the one who creates the reality that you're in through your thoughts, actions, non-actions, believe it or not. If you don't do anything, still something will happen. So, and I always use the example of a young man that I had the reading with a few years back. He was a smoker, and I do not know anything about anyone either. So when they sign up, and I happen to be the moderator. Jim, of course, is a little different, but I still do not know much about Jim. So the reader told him at age 50, I don't remember, 53 to 55 or something like that, you'll have cancer and die, lung cancer. And, this kid, young man was 25, 27 years old. I don't remember exactly, but in his late 20s. And he looked at me and said, "Oh my God, I'm a smoker," he said. I said, you see? So the reader already tells you, given your energies from today's point of view, Vedic astrology, and your thumbprint from today's point of view, looking into the future. Of course, life is never linear because it's too complex. But there is a chance in 30 years from now, you die. So either you listen to an Indian guy who has no clue who you are, and that you're a smoker, he does not know that either, and you change something. So you turn it into reality, meaning you quit smoking, you improve your diet, because he was given a whole list of Ayurvedic dietary suggestions too, or not, because nobody's here with a gun against your forehead saying you must. No, you choose, you create a reality every day through your thoughts, actions, belief system, and so forth. So he just can tell you a possible future, and the possible future looks like short, not so long. And lung cancer, I don't want to die of lung cancer because it's not a good way to go. So all I'm telling you is you get the good, the bad, the ugly. Good means, sorry, I've spoken quite a fair bit now. A good time to write a book, for example, because Jim knows Reverend Bill, they told him now is a good time to write a book, and he just started to write a book. Or to move, or to change jobs, or to find a partner. Either you utilize it or not, because nobody's here to do it for you. You do it. And the not so good things are health issues, relationship issues. Whether you do something about it or not is again up to you. We can only show you the water. You're the one who creates the reality. It's very, very important for me to reiterate it over and over and over and over and over again. Your life is not set in stone. The one who creates the reality is always you and no one else. And even though I, if you wish, got raped several times by life. I was a 16-year-old being at the wrong time, and the nuclear fallout from Chernobyl hit me and gave me cancer. I'm innocent. I got raped, really, I did. And yet I understand that it's me in that situation. I was in it. Had I not been there, I would not have had cancer. Do you understand what I mean? So to take responsibility for one's life, whether it's an accident or not, quote unquote, accident, in the end makes a difference because you were in it. Had I not driven the car, the woman would have never driven into me, even though it was not my fault. It wasn't. She drove into me, 100% her fault. Still, I was in the car. So all I'm trying to say is, if you understand this concept of self-responsibility, I guess, sixth chakra, then you can make the most out of your life and create. And that is the conclusion of this little thing here. Why anyone wants to get a reading done is to create a better life trajectory for yourself. You were given one from the day you get the reading done, and then it's up to you to create a better one. That is the whole purpose of a reading. For me, what it meant to me when I had my reading done, very simple. I've been in hospital more than most. I just don't want to be in a hospital again. Tubes down my throat. I got 1,000 needles, 1,000. Like this one is shot. I cannot, people cannot draw blood from this anymore. Chemotherapy destroyed it. Here, I got 2 left. So to me, better means no hospital, period. That's already better. To some other people, it is getting married or kids or more money or more fulfilling life, whatever it is, I do not know. So that is my final message to you. May the reading help you create a better life trajectory for yourself. Nandri. Nandri in Tamil means thank you.
Yeah,
so questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
There's some interesting concept you're finishing on, and that's the notion of free will.
Yes.
In effect, what you get from your reading is information to help you decide what path do I want to take. In the absence of that information, you don't have multiple paths that you can choose from. You're going to go down whatever path you've been on. But as you get information from a reading, now you see, maybe there's more than one path, and now with this information I can choose. There's another aspect of this, and that is when you, at least for me, if I want to influence my future, there are certain things that I will have to do that follow the Tamil and maybe Hindi teachings. Pujas, is that you want to talk a little bit about pujas?
Yeah, of course, we'll get to that too. Okay. I just do not know. I don't want to overburden people. It's quite a lot to absorb, and it's easy to break it up a little bit. So, if you understand, if you can accept my philosophy on this, is why should anyone get a reading done? Is to create a better life trajectory for yourself. Then the concept of pujas playing very well. A reading shows you the good, the bad, and the ugly. If it's good, for God's sake, utilize it. I cannot be there with a gun saying, dude, the reading told you now is a good time to finally write your book. Do it. I cannot do that. You are the one who got the message, and then you got to make time for it or shift your life around so that you can actually bring that book into reality. And if it's not so good, some people who don't get the message or who are not lucky enough to be in one of these calls think, and that is why I train every single moderator that works with me. And Jim had the privilege of this beautiful lady being in the reading too. She had a reading done herself just a few months ago, and she wanted to become a moderator. And I train every single moderator myself so they can help the seeker when they get a reading done through bumps. A bump is when you're being told a challenge. A few people just freak out. Oh, they just told me my parents are going to die. To me, who's knocked on heaven's door a couple of times, I'm like, sure. I mean, I live, I die. It's just the how. I just hope it will be not so painful. Ideally, I want to die in my sleep, or be hit by a bullet train and I don't even feel it. That's it. So I know death is just part of life. Without life, no death, and vice versa. But to some people, when they're being told, and I've been in so many readings myself, your parents are going to die when you're between 58 and 60. We're talking a parent who's 85 years old. So then I talk to them, how old do you think your parents are going to be? They're going to live forever? No, but so soon. I was like, what do you mean? So they're 85 years old, man. That's it's a blessing to be 85, really. Many people never get that old. So it's important that they understand that it's a challenge, it's a block, health challenge, career challenge, partnership challenge, money challenge, whatever the hurdle might be. At the end of the reading, you get homework, remedies. We call them pujas. I call them, and that's how I train my moderators to explain them to their speakers, is energy shifting exercise. If we can agree on this one very simple thing, if something goes well in your life, that means the energies are flowing. It's beautiful. You find a new partner, you find a new home, you change jobs. Doesn't matter, small, big, it just flows. There is not much effort behind it. Not that you just, fly, that you graduate from university or so. I got a PhD, so I know I really studied hard, but yet you get to the goal. Sometimes easy, you work for it and it happens, and sometimes you work a lot and nothing happens. You're in a vicious cycle. So if something happens, then there is a flow and you're on the right track and it's beautiful. And yet sometimes it's not. And you're like, God damn it, I do not know what the issue is. That's a block. And a block, really, again, that's coming back to the sixth chakra. I take a self-responsibility. That has to do with me and no one else. So that means I have a belief system or certain thoughts or do certain things that recreate that situation that I'm in. So puja, which literally translated means prayer ceremony or ceremonial act. But in my terminology, it means energy shifting exercise. So when in your reading, a block, hurdle, obstacle is identified in whatever shape or form, don't stress out, because at the end of the reading, the palm leaf itself tells you what you can do to shift those energies. Of course, through Hindu eyes, because all these Maharishis were Hindus. It's not a religious act, but they were Hindus still, so they have to utilize Hindu belief system. So they utilize gods and goddesses within Hindu religion. The beauty of Hindu religion is that each god represents a cure for something. So you then meditate, you dedicate your energies to that one god or goddess, knowing if you grew up with that religion, which I did not, but you grew up with that religion, you know that god or goddess represents X. Hence, he or she will help me overcome this particular issue, relationship issue, health issue, money issue, doesn't matter, kids issue, you name it. So they utilize in these pujas, gods and goddesses in Hinduism. So hence, prayer ceremony. Or it's a ceremonial act. So they make you do something. You go, you have an issue it happens many times to mothers who either want to become a mother or who have issues with their kids. They tell you during a whole series of mantra pujas where you dedicate your energies to, in this particular case, Guru Darshanamurti, who represents children. So you do your mantra dedicated to this one God, Guru Darshanamurti. 5 Thursdays, let's say, I'll just make this up now. So 5 Thursdays, you mantra, you repeat, and you focus. Your intention is to help overcome the issues that I have with my child, or I want a child if you don't have a child yet. But on 2 of those Thursdays, they make you do something. Go and feed baby cow and cow at the same time. Hence a ceremonial act, something physically you need to do. So you go, you're going to find a cow and baby cow somewhere and feed them at the same time with intention, healing with my child, or bring into reality a child for me. There are many different ceremonial acts. I had to give fruits and candy to at least 5 children in need on 5 consecutive Fridays. Now, I moved to Budapest 8 years ago when I had my reading done. I don't speak any Hungarian. I don't know anyone. But yeah, at the time, now, of course, I do. And so I'm a middle-aged white man being told, give to 5 children on 5 consecutive Fridays, fruits and candy. I thought to myself, man, oh man, how can I do that? I cannot just say, hey, little kiddo, there's some candy for you, because they might think I'm a weirdo foreigner in Hungary. I just tried to make you a little laugh too here, because it was indeed a challenge for me. I did not know what to do. But then, of course, you got to overcome the challenge, because that is your way of showing the universe that you're serious about the healing. Really, I said, nothing will ever stop me, because I didn't want to go back to hospital. So what did I do? Of course, I contacted orphanages. I said, look, I'm not a weird guy. I know I'm a foreigner coming here. I don't speak Hungarian, but here, these are originally packed. I'll buy candy and I'll buy some fruits, go to the fresh market, and I'll bring it to you on 5 Fridays, in a sack. I'll bring it to you. can you make sure that the kids, at least 5 of them, which I bought for everyone, not just 5, but that everyone gets today, not tomorrow, not yesterday, today when I bring it. It must be on a Friday. 5 kids, which in this case, I don't know, 20 or 30 kids, can they all get one? Sure, of course they say yes, of course. I mean, they must be stupid to say no. But you find your ways around it. That shows the universe that you're serious about it. So that you do it on 5 Thursdays, dedicating your energies to Lord Guru Dashnamurti, means that you are serious about, okay, you don't forget it. It's 5 Thursdays, you put Lord Guru's picture on the wall, you recite the chant, meditation that we give you, that the reader gives you in your palm leaf, retransliterated for you. And that is how you can make sure that you change the energies in yourself so that you can attract different energies, so that you ultimately can overcome the block identified in your reading. That's a puja. And most pujas are done by you. They're called temple pujas, but they are also so-called mantra pujas. And mantra pujas can only be done by a priest. It's an energy shifting exercise conducted by a priest on your behalf. Again, you're going to look at it from a Hindu point of view. I try to westernize this as best as I possibly can. But a Hindu, an Indian, truly believes in me too. I had it done too. You know, I had 2 different ceremonies prescribed, one for 144 days and one fire ceremony. Of course, I said, of course, do both of it. I believe it. That's an energy shifting exercise conducted by a priest on your behalf in a temple. Either he goes to a temple twice a day and recites the chant, a mantra out of your palm leaf with your name in it, or he creates a fire. That's a one-off energy shifting exercise that he does. You then in spirit join, which I did too, in meditation at the time, because you will know when he's doing it, the name of the priest, the time, the date, and the temple. You know that before. And we always say on that day or time, do a meditation so that you can connect with the energies that help you change the energies, and so that you can attract different energies, so that you can create a better life trajectory for yourself. So that's the pujas at the end. I hope they were not too boring or too lengthy because they're quite complex. They're not so easy. I try to make them as easy to understand as possible.
Let's open this up. Daniel, do you want to invite people to ask questions, and how would you like to handle that? You know, unmute yourself.
Yeah. Let's put the questions in the chat or raise hands using the raise hand function. I'll start you off with a couple of questions that have occurred as you've been going through, Dr. Q. Very interesting presentation so far. Thank you very much.
So far, let's see if we can keep it up.
So you mentioned Tamil Nadu. Where are you near by any chance Tiruvannamalai? Do you know that area in Tamil? The great sacred mountain?
Yes, I do. No, not that close, no. If you know Tamil Nadu is like a lengthy state, similar to California. It's just a little more narrow, I would say. So the very north, the tip, like the most south, that's the end of it. So that's where the sea is. So that's the tip of India. Here, a little bit kind of like you, where you're moving to Charlotte. A little south of the border is Chennai. That's the biggest city. 15 million people-ish live in Chennai. So you're flying to Chennai, and then it would take you, God knows how long, it's to take a train all the way to Kerala at the very bottom.
Are you near Pondicherry?
15. Oh no, Pondicherry is 2 hours at the sea. Pondicherry is beautiful. Pondicherry used to be a French colony, actually. So it's a state within a state.
Okay, well, I didn't want to get you off track too far. I just thought I'd ask.
No. Yes,
in case it was an easy
it's 5
answer.
hours south. Yeah. It's so because I do not know how well you know, but you travel about 5 hours by train, give or take, south of Chennai. That's the capital city, and then you go to Chidambaram, and another hour to Vaitishvarankoil. That is what the legend says, the birthplace of these palm leaf readings.
Very interesting. Because a friend of mine lives in Tiru. So let's see. All right. So we don't have any hands raised yet. So does this indicate then if is before you've had your reading and after you've had your reading, how would you describe is it like a spiritual awakening, or is it simply a better understanding of your life plan?
Yeah, well, both, I would say. My first reading 9 years ago, almost about 9 years ago, it brought clarity. So I had met a girl from Hungary. I was, I made the decision already, even though I didn't have my apartment yet in Budapest, to move to Budapest, capital city of Hungary. And then hearing it from an Indian guy blew my mind. I was like, wow, so my decision is good. And he said, forget about the US, going back to this for another 10, 15 years, which is now approaching. So, and then I might go back or not, but life's very complex. And then he said, you're going to bring this to the West. Well, he gave me life purpose because I'm a last lifer, which you're being told in your reading too, which is a privilege and a burden to some extent too. Everything needs to be looked at from a Hindu perspective. We have 7 lives, 7 chances to leave behind good karma, a good legacy, basically, to keep it simple.
In each life?
In Hinduism, like 7 lives, 7 reincarnations.
I see.
And then if you're in your last life or second last life, the reader will tell you, it's your last life, it's your 7th life, that's it. It's not a carte blanche. People are like, wow, I can now do anything I want, shoot up drugs and get drunk. And you can do that too, but it means you're blowing your chance of being reunited, of reaching moksha. Moksha means liberation. Nirvana, being reconnected with the eternal source. And then you don't need to come back anymore. The suffering, the learning, whatever the suffering has an end. There are some souls that I jokingly call them stupid enough to voluntarily come back. We call them light travelers. And Reverend Bill, by the way, is one of those light travelers who is already in moksha. He's liberation, done. He can lead a wonderful life for the rest of eternity. And yet he's stupid enough to come back as a human because he sees that people need help. And we've had a few light travelers in the history of our institute. It does not mean that your life is super dandy when you come back as a light traveler, for sure not, because Reverend Bill's life is anything but dandy. Cancer issues, war that he's been in, and so forth. It's a life of giving. He's a truly wonderful human being. You're back. You're here because you feel the need that you're going to help others, and that's the reason why you came back voluntarily. And that is a message that we can be told in a reading.
So there are a couple questions. One is our destiny under our control?
If you ask me personally, 100%. Doesn't matter what, period. I believe in it, 1,000%. I think we create the reality that we're in. And again, this could be filling another 5 hours completely, because I've done a lot of meditation journeys where like all day meditations and for days and days and days. And at some point you reach a point where things are different, but it takes time. And I've also done a lot of meditations with shamanic help. And you don't need that much time. And you also reach a different state very fast. It might sound crazy, I don't know. I still need to process and digest and understand it myself, but I think we're going through a myriad of parallel realities at the same time. So every time I turn left instead of right, boom, there's already 2 realities created. Instead of me drinking tea but coffee, another reality is created, and so forth. And again, the concept of time, I think, is I cannot put my finger on it. I cannot prove it. I understand it too. And I'm not a wacko person either. So I'm very much a grounded human being with a lot of different experiences. I don't think time, the way we experience it is what it really is. So destiny is made by us. It is for sure, guaranteed.
Okay, that's fair. So next question, how long is a reading? How long does it take?
Matching and reading takes about 3 hours, could be 4 hours, depending on the questions that you have during the reading or at the end of the reading, or technical issues, electricity, Zoom, internet. 3-4 hours is a safe bet.
And so when they find your leaf, that's only for you.
Only for you, correct.
So after the reading, do you get to keep the leaf?
No, absolutely not. It stays in the bundle. It goes back into the archive. And at some point in the future, it's recycled and becomes somebody else's leaf.
Okay. So it gets rewritten, or that same information
matches another human being.
Interesting.
Yes.
So that would say that somebody else may be Jim Fisher in another
no Jim
lifetime,
no Jim.
with a father named Donald and a mother named Elizabeth.
No.
No?
Completely different.
So how that's a good question that Daniel kind of brings to mind. So as I'm having my reading, your father's name is Donald.
Yep.
That's what the guy is saying.
Yes.
If that information is on that leaf,
yep,
and it goes back into the bundle and stored,
yep,
there's still something that says your father's name is Donald on it.
No, not when it comes to a whole new person who submits a whole new thumbprint, whose first name might be Susan, whose father's name might be, I don't know, Frank, and whatever. So the only thing that you have in common is the same thumbprint. That's correct. That never changes. That's always the same thumbprint name because it never changes. What everything else, as I explained to you, your energies, even your energy, like all of our energies, according to this one system, changes every 6 months. So that changes all the time. And Vedic astrology. Now, Nadi reading again is the exact time and moment in space, I guess, where the seeker receives the message written on his palm leaf. So when all these three, the seeker, the leaf, and the conduit being the reader, get together, special energies are being formed. And then as the reader starts flipping through through the leaves and reading out messages to you, he will then say, your name contains A, E, I, O, or U, this and that, the other, because you are a totally different person, nothing to do with Jim, like your name is Susan, you're not even the same gender, you're not even born in the United States, but I don't know, let's make it up in France, doesn't really matter where. You will then, the reader then interprets, as I said, it takes many years to be able to decipher the symbols. Okay. It's not written in a message, it's symbols compressed. So there is a lot of information in one little symbol. So as these three connect and it starts reading out to you, your name is Susan now, you're not Jim, a very different person. You will say yes, 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 yes. And boom, all of a sudden, the name Susan comes up and he says, your name is Susan. And you say, yes, my name is Susan. Your father's name is Frank. Yes, my father's name is Frank. And it becomes that person's leaf. And
so I guess I'm thinking back, help me clarify. This leaf that was my leaf, is now back in a bundle.
Yep, it is.
Is there a possibility someday it'll be pulled out again for another reading?
Yes, absolutely.
Is the information on that leaf, the symbols have got to be the same. They didn't change.
No, symbols did not change. But
it's the interpretation.
Correct.
Okay,
depending on what your answers are, yes, the interpretation.
So I think what I hear you saying is, it's clarifying for me.
Yep.
That specific leaf, it's not just the information on the leaf, it's the interpretation as well. So it's a two-part, in order for that leaf, and maybe I'm being overly logical, but for that leaf to be relevant for some other person's reading,
Mhm.
those symbols have to be interpreted differently for that person's energy. They won't have the exact same energy I have.
No,
But the
I mean,
symbols will be
I know
the
what you're trying to say. I know what you're trying to say. Now we're going into quantum physics, I guess, or quantum mechanics, or the reality that we create. It's if you look at the reader as just being a conduit, a skilled conduit, and I know the readers that work for Institute, the humans that they are, they live normal lives, understand, and yet, which do you, sorry, I've done so many readings. Who was your reader? Was it Guruji, Swamiji? I forgot who your reader was, but I can tell you just, I can look it up quickly. So I can tell you like little personal stories so that you understand it a little better. Your name is Guruji. So Guruji, he's actually, he has an engineering degree. He has a master's in engineering. So he's a he has like both feet on the ground, if you wish, as a human being. And yet he is spiritual beyond belief. This guy is in accidents every other month. Like he gets hit by cars, falls over stairs, because he attracts all these energies from the people that he works for and with, that at some point his body just gives in and then he collapses. And he's been in hospital many times, and every time he's in, I worry for his survival, to be honest. You know, and so when I talk to him, he says, yeah, I understand, but that's what I attract. You know, that's the energies that I attract from all these people, and then somehow my system has to get rid of it, and that's the only way it can adjust itself when I'm hit by something that shakes me up, which is painful, which is not good for his, you know, human shell, and yet it happens to him all the time. So he's just a conduit. He's like that. If he looks at a leaf, all he sees is like ancient granta, ancient language, which mean nothing, like, because it's symbols and poetry. What turns it into something, a story that he can tell, is when he talks to you, connects with your energies, and then he can, and he needs to know which direction should I interpret this particular leaf. Does your name contain A, I, O? If it's yes, then he stays on the leaf, and then he can see, he can read it. I mean, and Shiam, your interpreter, is a scholar. I mean, he's a very educated man. He can pinpoint every single word written for you on this leaf. It takes hours, but we can do it. Hi, look, here's your name, Jim, and then you can compare it with ancient grant, and you can say, yeah, that's Jim, and that's, or James, and that's father's name, mother's name, and the story that's written in it. He can do that, but he can do the same on the same leaf for Susan with Frank and this, because the energies came together. And then it's like, I guess, I don't know, it just came to me now, like an autistic person who sees, like, when you only see like numbers and nothing else, and then boom, like a person who has like gifts, and then can pinpoint a pattern in it, and then he reads it to you, and then it all makes sense to you. So okay. It's beyond understanding. It's quite an amazing experience, really. It is. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in it.
So we have a hand up from Chris.
Sure.
Go ahead, Chris. Hello, Chris. What's your question?
Chris Lagain.
Yeah, unmute Chris.
Yeah. Hey, Dr. Q, thanks. Very inspirational and fascinating tonight, what you were sharing with us. And I'm with you on the parallel universes. I recently had 2 job offers, and both jobs rolled out the red carpet, and I felt like part of me took both jobs, you know. So
oh, cool.
I can resonate with that. But I just wanted to ask a question, because I know a lot of people are probably wondering, how do we book a palm reading, and how does that process work?
Thank you for the question. I first of all, as a little thank you to Jim and allow me to spread the word about this. It's my lifelong Gurutan, and Gurutan, Jim knows, when you get a reading done, Gurutan is part of your puja system. That's the very first puja you need to do, and that means you show gratitude and donation. That's what it means, literally translated. So my guru time when I had my reading, I said, okay, I got to do something that's gives back, gratitude. It does not mean that you don't that you cannot make money with it, because we have a lot of physicians and therapists that are getting your reading done too. Just continue doing what you're doing. So as part of my Gurutan, lifelong Gurutan, and this being my last life, I thought I would start this institute and give back to both. Now, and to say thank you, and I say thank you to every single person who refers people to us. Believe it or not, it's a lot of people and a lot of emails that I send. I always send an email if I can pinpoint the person. I always send a person an email saying, thank you very much for referring your friends to Susan, to us. For as long as I can do it, I'll do it. So in this particular case, because we've got a group of people here, to say thank you to Jim to allow me to help spread the word. And so I can help my Indian friends, believe it or not, and the 2 orphanages that I support or the Institute supports. A reading costs $100 for the search. You put down $100, we send you an email with a form, you put down your thumbprint, so that means you're going to organize an ink pad. Somehow you can borrow it from the office if you wish. Color makes a difference, black, red, blue. You put it on the form that we send you, you circle male or female and the country of birth. You submit it to our secure server, so you're going to upload it to our system. The reader looks at it, determines your thumbprint name. If you can determine your thumbprint name, boom, search starts. We send you an email saying, congratulations, search starts, please be patient. The average wait time is 4 to 8 weeks until we can come up with a bundle. We search for 6 months. If there is no bundle, we give you the $100 back. That's it. It just means there is no bundle now. So don't get upset or stressed out. It has no deeper meaning apart from not now. You can resubmit impressions 6 months later. If we do find bundles, and we usually do, if we find bundles, that means you have a leaf, period. No matter how many times you need to do matching, you have a leaf. Then usually the cost for the reading and the matching and the reading is $400. But a little thank you, Gurutam, from me to Jim's group, I give you $100 off. All you gotta say is like, Jim, Spiritual Cafe, and then off you go, put it in the system, and you get $100 off. The matching and the reading is 3 hours. As I explained to you before, there's the reader, the interpreter in my office in India, and the moderator, Western moderator, wherever they're located, in Europe, in the US, in South Africa, so they're all over the place. They're all trained by me. It could be me too, by the way. I was meant to do gyms, but I was too sick to do it really. Still, I'm hard time sitting at the moment. We'll record it. You get a recording of your reading, which is professionally edited by a person that I'm gonna pay, a professional editor. We edit your chat history. So we're gonna use the chat in Zoom a lot, Jim knows. We edit that for you too. You get pictures of your palm leaf sent as well. And then last but not least, your pujas, the one that we talked about at length before, your homework, your remedies. We transliterate every one of those mantras into English so you can read them. It's a lot of work. The reader will tell us that's the mantra dedicated to, I don't know, Shiva, Parvati, Ganesh, and so forth, and how many times you need to do it. We send along the pictures of all those deities too. You don't have to do any work. We explain them to you. We send it to you in a PDF. And that preparation takes about 2 weeks after your reading is completed. And we send them all to you through WeTransfer in a downloadable link. Look, you suck it down onto your computer, and then you're done. So it's $100 for the search, and in your case, $300 for the matching and the reading. That's the cost. And you only need to pay $100 and then $300, not all at once. If you're happy with your reading, of course, you can donate extra money, which Jim did, which I'm very grateful. Thank you so much. I do this really to give back. So the money that you donate, you can, as a guru time, you can donate extra money if you like to. It goes to the team, my Indian team, and it goes to the moderator who plays a role in it too, and it goes to my orphanage. That's what it does, really. So your generosity and every reading helps me help other people. That's
very good.
I got a comment. If you decide to have a reading, I haven't gotten my information back yet. It's so
it's just
fresh.
it was just
and there's so much information there. You don't you don't sit there and take notes because it's a stream of things that are coming forward.
Yes.
When I get this information back, I intend to spend a lot of time going over it, and
You should.
I listen to it closely, and there are some things that I recall. They gave me some idea, looking forward in the future, what years would be good years to be initiating things and what years might not be good years. They had some information about health between myself and my wife. My wife's health is expected to be a bit problematic a few years out. A good thing from that, having bad health is not, in a human sense, is not a good thing, but having that information allows me to maybe prepare for it. If she's going to be falling, if I'm going to have to be providing greater care for her, I can mentally prepare myself, and if they're just being aware of that is helpful. I did find that they said that I'm in I have one more life to live. So Dr. Q's in his last life, and Reverend Bill and he's finished a long time ago, and he's just coming back to be of service. But I've got another life ahead of me, and it'd be interesting to see, what's that life going to have in store.
See, look at it as an opportunity. We're here to leave behind, create good karma, basically. That's the whole mindset behind this, is to create good karma. And involuntarily, would create also bad karma. Most of humans are actually not bad. We're just stupid, we do stupid things, me too. And in our journey, we create bad karma. So we need to learn, and then hopefully, ultimately, focus on creating good.
Good. So I put your website address in the chat, and I also put your YouTube channel link in there.
That's very kind of you, Daniel.
And Jeanette has her hand up.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, thank you. Well, that was awesome. Thank you. So when Jim was told that he has one more life to live, does that mean that he decided to come back? I mean, how does reincarnation come into play with this? When you're given a reading, is that what was meant when Jim was told he would be coming back for one more life?
It means that he's in his 6th of 7 lives, according to Nadi readings. So you have got 7. You got 7 chances to leave behind a good legacy, and he is in his 6th chance. You got one more chance. So there is one more mandatory return. One more mandatory return. He can come back more than just one more time, but if he does so, it will be voluntarily as a light worker. Yeah. So
okay. And since you're familiar with India, I was attracted to, I don't know if you're familiar with these Shiva Lingam.
Shiva Lingam, of course. Yes.
Shiva Lingam.
I know.
Yeah,
yes,
these stones that are supposed to be in the sacred Narmada River.
Yes, correct. It's hard to see it because it's you use a what's it called, a virtual.
They're like
virtual
round. They're found in the Narmada
I know Shiva
River.
Lingam. Yes. You know what it means. You know what it means, Shiva Lingam, right? As you have it.
Well, it's a healing stone, right? A Kundalini.
Yeah, it's
energy,
Shiva's
healing
penis.
energy stone.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Just saying.
So I'm just wondering.
You're playing with his manlyhood in your
holding
hands.
it, yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to.
I'm kidding. I'm just trying to put some smiles on your smiles on your faces. That's all I'm trying to do. Yes, of course. That is the form Shiva is reincarnated for most of the time. Shiva Lingam. So you see Shiva's when you go to a temple, you don't see Shiva's body or face. You see Shiva Lingam. That the form that represents Shiva. Usually in a temple. Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So I'm glad that you were familiar with that, because I've never heard of it before, and I wanted
Shiva Lingam is huge. It's very big. So when you go to temple, you will see Shiva Lingam. as a representation of Shiva.
Okay, yeah, I was attracted to it, and I brought back 2 of these from California from a
Oh, cool.
store. So, okay, so my other question was, if the reading is so long, 3 hours, normally it sounds like it covers all the aspects and bases of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And does it include your children? And it sounds like maybe your spouse. I mean, since Jim got
Yes.
some information on his family, so will it be my immediate family and my fiance?
Whatever direct reaction, direct connections to your. I just put down what I was talking to you. Is our website is indianpalmreading.com if you need more information. And thank you, Daniel, for my email address. But it's better to write to info@Indian Palm Reading than Dr. Q, because if you send it to info@, then more people see it than just me. So Jim got the VIP trip, and I must be honest with everyone here too, because he has my direct email address, and now everyone has my direct email address. I'm already bombarded with so many emails that I do not even know what to do with it. It would have been much easier to write down info@ so that it's not necessarily just me who gets it, but more team members can help you than just me personally. So
We'll see
sorry.
if we can edit that out of the chat room when we.
So yeah, I mean, Dr. Q is fine too. It comes to me directly, or info@Indian Palm Leaf Reading. That's another way of reaching us.
Jeanette, a little clarification for you. The 3 hours is not all reading.
It's not. Yeah.
It took probably.
It takes 45 to 60 minutes, depending on how fast he goes. Is your matching? Matching takes a while, obviously. And the first 15 minutes before the reader comes online, we prepare you for your matching experience with your moderator. So the moderator goes through the matching form, because you got to fill in first the form with your name, your mother's name, father's name. You might say, I know my father's name, I know my mother's name. Why should I put it down? Believe me, madam, I've been in quite many readings. People mix up their names. They forget how many kids they have, how many grandchildren they have. It's hard for them to remember how many letters, Raymond has, because it's, they got to count it every single time. So that's the reason why I'll make you write down in capital letters on a form, how many letters does Raymond have, how many letters this and that have. So we prepare you for it. And so your moderator will go through that. It takes, 10 minutes. And then we'll bring about on board the reader and the interpreter in the office in India. And then the 3 plus you together will go through the matching process. And if there is a matching first time round, lucky you, 85%, 90% of the time, first matching works. That means first time we schedule matching. It could be that the reader goes through 2 or 3 bundles that he found, saying, sorry, no matching today. None of these leaves matches you. Don't get stressed out. The reader will go back and search for more bundles. And then 2, 3, 4 weeks later, we have a second matching. And 99% of the time, second matching, we will find your leaf. So, but if he finds at least 1 bundle, it's guaranteed you have a leaf, period. It just is a matter of time how many matchings we need to do. Over the course of the lifespan of the Institute, we had a few 3 matchings, like 3 maybe, or 2 or 3, and one time 4th matching, I think, something like that. So usually second matching, 99%, you have a match. And then there is a 15-minute break, because you need a break. I'm telling you, you're quite excited or exhausted or overwhelmed, or because people cry, believe it or not. I've had many people that cry when their leaf is found. So they need some rest. And during the 15 minutes, we explain you the reading, so you know what to expect. From a Western point of view, that's what we're going to talk about. So you're prepared for it, like the timeline of the reading. And then the Indians come back again, and then we do the reading, depending on how many questions you have and how complicated things are. It's about an hour and a half for the reading part. And then at the end of the reading, still part of the reading, is the puja reading. That's the very last part that the reader shares with you, is your puja, is your homework. And then we say bye-bye to the reader. And afterwards, the moderator explains you your pujas to make sure that you understand them, because they're quite complex. They are time consuming. It's your way of showing the universe that you're serious about the healing, and that you're here to overcome the hurdles identified in your reading. So The pujas are lengthy. Once a week, you're going to do something, either on a full moon day, a new moon day, a weekday, 8 Saturdays in a row due to Hanuman, 5 Thursdays in a row due to, I don't know, Guru Dashnamurti. I don't know, everyone's different. So it takes a while to do it. And you need someone explaining them to you in Western terminology so that you don't mix it up. Because if you mix it up and you do it incorrectly, even slightly incorrectly, it doesn't count. And if it doesn't count, you got to go back and start from scratch, because you got to be done exactly as prescribed to you, because that is your way of showing the universe that you're serious about your healing. So
let me make a
Leaves are in those
comparison.
bundles.
Sorry?
How many leaves are in the bundle?
A maximum of 108.
There's 108 leaves in that
A
bundle?
maximum of 108. On
108,
average,
okay.
40 to 60 maybe. Something like
Wow,
that.
that's
Yes.
a lot.
Yes.
Wow.
It could be just 22. I mean, it could be less than that.
I see.
But there is a
Oh,
max, because not every bundle is different. The length is different. The thickness is different. How many are in one is different. It's India. Nothing standardized. Nothing. It's just randomness. Some of them are like twice as wide. Some of them are longer and thinner. Some of them are a little shorter. Some of them have 108, like a lot. Some of them only have 20 in them, very, very few, because the rest already disintegrated. And I don't want to over confuse people either, because it's a lifelong learning for me too, believe it or not. I learn every single time I do a reading out of interest, sheer interest too. After some time, just to maybe to confuse Jim even more when it comes to, oh my God, my leaf can be used, it can be somebody else's leaf altogether. At some point, the reader might say, this leaf is done. No, it will not be anyone else's leaf anymore. And then there's a ceremony where they give the leaf back to the universe in a water ceremony. Then that leaf is finished.
Wow.
Yes.
So I was going to draw a comparison. I find it fascinating when there are commonalities between cultures.
Mm-hmm.
So you talked about how doing these pujas is a way of showing that you're seriously engaged, that you're putting energy into it. When I went to Peru and participated in an ayahuasca healing retreat,
Mm-hmm.
We each were given things that we had to do. When the 2 weeks was up,
Yeah.
I had to continue following a very restrictive diet for another 30 days. And then if I broke that diet, then it would have a negative impact on the things that I wanted to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is it's your way of showing the universe or Mother Ayahuasca that you're serious about, following what you've been given. So it's interesting. I find it interesting that here's this way of doing things down in the Amazon jungle that has parallels to what you're telling us in Tamil, India.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. I understand that. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Are you going to open up a school here in the States where people can learn how to do this kind of thing, or?
You cannot learn it.
Or is
There
it
is no
just
way you
all-
can learn it.
I know it says it takes a lifetime, you said.
Yeah, you cannot learn it. It's I mean, not only would you first need to learn Tamil, that's step one, which is a very difficult language. I know some words after I've been there quite many times, and languages come easy to me because I grew up trilingual, but still very difficult. So that's one. And then two, you got to learn ancient Tamil. That's just the basics. You haven't even learned anything yet. You just learn to communicate, and then you learn how to understand ancient Tamil. And then once you know that, you may then start going to a guru to then learn how to become a reader, and that takes 5 to 7 years. And good luck. So there is no way you can never become a reader. No way.
Yeah.
I'm only all I do is like I help my Indians and I help my Western people get a reading, and I help my Indians to be able to do what they are meant to do as healers. And so I created this platform, a conduit. That's it. and try to westernize the communication as best as I can so people understand the depth of it, which is very deep and very powerful indeed.
Yes.
That is my job,
Fascinating.
but my job can never be to be a reader, because I won't be able to ever do it, period.
Okay.
Mm.
Thank you for sharing that. That's
Sure.
interesting. I can't wait to have my reading done.
Well, it would be an honor too. And what I did is I just sent you a little, we put together a little video, which is, I don't know, 8 to 10 minutes or something. It explains the whole thing in 8, 10 minutes to make it easy for you. So I put it in the chat too.
Thank you.
Whoever signs up usually gets an email with the video link, so they can just listen to it. It's a recap of what we just did, just, you know, way less, just the gist, so they know what to do about it. Again, you know, whoever wants to do it, send me an email, Dr. Q. I'll put in the system, as I promised Jim, as a little thank you. And of course, also Daniel too. I really appreciate your energies and guiding us, and observations, and asking the cool questions too. You can just say Daniel or Jim or the Consciousness Cafe, and you get the $100 off. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
That's
Dr.
awesome.
Q.
Spread the word, talk to other people, spread the word, so that more people get a reading, and hopefully we can make this a better world.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Dr. Q. It's been an interesting evening.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to getting my summary back so I can study it. It's nice to know that there's some people here who maybe have an interest in having their own reading.
You're welcome. Sure thing. Yes.
So
You can rest assured they're all in great hands. Jim just had a reading himself. And so he knows that I was in it, and I helped as a supervisor, because Jim is our VIP. But the actual moderator, she's a lovely lady who had a reading. I mean, we'll have different ones, so they're all trained. So Jim actually was in it and observed how a moderator who is not me did it. They all got trained by me. And it's a pity that Anastasia is not in here today, because actually Jim was so kind to sponsor another lady, Anastasia, to get a reading, and she's a big fan too.
if anybody would like to know more about the specifics of my reading, I'd be happy to share them with them on a one-to-one basis, as opposed to talking in a large gathering like this. But
yeah,
just send me an email, and I won't really follow up until I get my materials
you gotta be
back
patient.
and
It
study
takes
them.
another week or two to get it done, but people can, if you want to. Daniel was so kind to share our YouTube channel. In our YouTube channel, we have like a handful of complete readings. People like yourself, Jim, who had a reading done, they agreed, for whatever reason, I'm very grateful for that actually, to have their entire reading, matching and reading, be put on YouTube. Uncurated, unedited, just boom, it's in there. So people can watch, like Jeanette said, how long does it take? You can actually go to our YouTube channel and then listen to Erica Middlemas was the first one allowing it a couple of years ago, Dr. Erica Middlemas. And then after her, quite a few others allowed to put their reading on our YouTube channel. The whole thing, matching and reading. So you can just watch their personal, uncurated, dirty laundry that's shared with the world. And Erica Middlemas like cried. She couldn't believe it. She was like crying. It took her just some time to overcome. It's all this in there. Reverend Bill's reading is in there too. By the way, was happy to do it. A young man who I'm mentoring now. He's like 19 years old. He had his entire reading. Kuba Jacob, his name. He was happy to do it. So there's a few. Lynette, also her entire reading. One of my Indian friends, I mean, he only became a friend after the reading, but he runs, like you, Jim. There's a connection between you and him too. Nikat, his name is Nikat. So he runs the Monroe Institute in Kolkata. And he allowed, Nikat Kaitan, his name, and he allowed us to put his entire reading on YouTube, so you can check him out too. Lovely human being. And he organized, because of COVID, Zoom presentations to his gang up in India. And we had dozens of people come from him to get a reading done. Indians, mind you, Indians getting a reading for us because they trust us and they know that we're ethical and authentic, even though they could just do it locally, but they didn't. So, yeah, so there's quite many. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you. I turn it over to Jim to wrap us up.
Okay. Again, thank you, Dr. Q. This recording will be, I'm going to stop it now.